Hi, and welcome to Writer's Ramble. I'm Deanna.
And I'm Michael.
And today we're going to be continuing with story time. We left off on chapter 10, but in case you were new, story time is just a segment where we read old chapters from a story I wrote when I was about 9. So as you can imagine, it's not exactly good, but it's fun to roast, so join us in the comments. Tell us what you think of it. Don't hold back, it's meant to be fun.
Yeah, don't click off if you haven't watched the previous ones. You may be missing some context, but it's goofy regardless.
Yeah. So, at that age, I was, wanting to write something edgy. But anyways, we left off on chapter 10, so now we're on chapter 11, called The Adventure in the Mine. And so the previous chapter, chapter 10, was called Samantha. So Jace discovered Samantha. She kind of magically appeared, and we also learned that the Dimitris, which is basically the Triforce, I know, it's called a Dimitri anyways. In this case, we learned some interesting things. It's a little OP. Has a lot of strange abilities and kind of responsible for teleporting or communicating with others. It's there's no limits by the looks of it.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So they all got out of the tent. Samantha said, "Let's all get into the minecart." "Yeah, really, I don't want to be stuck here all day," Sean added in. There were 2 minecarts. Jace and Samantha went into the first one. Katie and Sean took the second one.
Wait, do they know where are they going? Have they discussed? I don't think they have discussed where they're going. They're just like, oh, minecarts, let's get in them.
Yeah, sounds like a fun time. What are you talking about?
You kind of just made it like, oh, obviously they're supposed to get in the minecarts. We don't have to figure out where it is they're trying to go to. Just get in. Don't think about it.
Child me was like, that'd be so sick.
I love how Sean was the one to kick it off too. Like, you don't even belong here, man. Come on, guys. Who invited this guy?
They went off on a little ride. They went off for a little ride. And they went really fast. The minecarts went 45 miles per hour.
Did that seem like that was fast to you when you were younger?
So, at the time, I wasn't sure, how fast was. And I remember, asking my parents, I think I was, in the car, and I was like, how fast are we going? And they're like, oh, about 45, and I was like, noted.
This is yet another example of you inserting specific, random numbers to try to seem smarter than you were, because... for those who haven't, watched the older videos, Jace lived in an 8-foot by 8-foot room, which she thought was a large room, and he woke up at precisely 9:04 or something like that a.m. You can explain better what was going through your head than I can, but it's just very amusing to me.
I was going for just what felt realistic, we all wake up in the middle of the night, roll over, look at the clock and go, oh wow, it's 11:03 or something weird like that. But anyways, I don't know why I included this detail, but okay, so they're going 45 miles per hour. Jace realized that him and Samantha were squinting. I think just against the wind, if you're going fast enough, you're
Yeah, I find the phrasing funny, they realized as if that wasn't their choice.
Wow.
I realized I was doing the polka. Weird.
It was very fun until Jace saw the I got distracted because I saw a really weird spelling of until. Okay, do you want to guess how I spelled until?
Put your guesses in the comments. Let's see. ENTULL.
It starts with a weird letter to be using for until.
Why?
No.
What?
W.
Winter.
WINTILE.
Wait.
Wintile.
Deanna didn't read much when she was younger.
No.
Give her some slack.
I always say that I'm a writer first and a reader second, which is usually a bad sign. But it's true because, I was writing before I ever had an interest in reading. But anyways. It was very fun until Jace saw the track ends.
You gotta love how you can tell they were having fun because you said they were having fun.
Yeah, and they were squinting too. But anyways, there was a big gap. They would fly off the track. Samantha, Jace said nervously, and nervously was also horribly botched. Samantha asked. Jace pointed at the big gap. Oh my gosh, we're going to die, Samantha screamed.
Was there like a pause?
Yeah, there was...
Like an ellipses?
Yeah. ... some of the track was bent up so it would flip them out and they will fall.
Again with the wills and wood. So this is what's gonna happen, guys, okay? You got that?
Mm-hmm. They were coming up to the gap. Samantha closed her eyes, waiting for the cart to dump them out, waiting for her heart to stop beating. Very dramatic.
You can just hear like the edgy music of like a music video or something, you know?
Some like cinematic music that I can think of that you'd hear in like a gritty movie, I don't know. No, Jace screamed. They were both falling and screaming. Samantha, since we're going to die, I just wanted to say, I like you. That's such a...
The first time that they met in this story was last chapter.
That's not true. They knew each other as kids.
No, in the story.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And, frankly, you had already, like, established, like, that there was a love at first sight thing. I get that, but...
Yeah.
This feels equivalent to Ted saying he loves Robin in the first episode of How I Met Your Mother.
Well, you know, when you're about to die, it puts things into perspective.
This is chapter 11, and frankly, I feel like the actual, like, plot of things happening, them going places, has just barely begun. So it's very silly feeling to me that you've already put them in a life or death situation.
Yeah, gotta, up the stakes. Things have been a little bit too chill lately,
Well, like, if the stakes were, like, supposed to be ramping up, then instead of a ramp, it's more like a wall, where, like, they just kind of shot straight up the wall.
Anyways, oh, Jace, I've always liked you too, Samantha said, sobbing. She's always liked him, I guess.
So there's like no conflict here. I like you too. There we go, we've settled this 11 chapters in.
And then they die, and then the story's over. Anyways, what do you guys think of the story?
Like she said, she was trying to be edgy.
They saw that there was water at the bottom. Samantha screeched and grabbed onto Jace. I can't swim! I'm going to drown! Samantha said.
Oh no, Jace, I'm going to drown! I also, like, screeched. Well, you might think of it. I'm thinking...
Rip headphone users.
I'm sorry? I just didn't think about that.
Oh my gosh. Jace listened to her unsteady breathing. I don't think you'd be able to, like, notice that as you're falling.
They're, like, holding each other, right?
Yeah, but you're not...
Does he have his ear up to her, like, face? I feel like you'd have to.
They landed in the water sideways. Jace and Samantha stood up. It's shallow, she cried happily.
Wouldn't that hurt them more?
I know. They must not.
Oh, cool, I landed on nice, soft rock.
Yeah, because, like, I know what I was going for here, but it would have to be a very short fall, and considering they had a whole conversation as they were falling, I think they would just die.
Maybe she meant that the pit was shallow. There we go.
No, that's not what I meant.
I know. I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt. You should have just let me do that for you.
Ah, shit. We're alive, Jace cried. They looked up and saw Katie and Sean looking down at them.
Oh, that's right, they weren't in the same one.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They probably would have hit, like, the back of their cart, realistically.
Yeah, why didn't... Because I'm assuming they were going roughly the same speed. It's not like you could just go 45 miles per hour to 0 naturally, if the first one had fallen off, realistically, they should have fallen off too.
Yeah, they probably would have been done.
Unless they had a break. That, by the way, they do have breaks on those things. I don't think you realized when you were writing.
No, I was like, those things are just free rolling down the tracks, you know?
I'm curious, was this setting with like the minecarts and the rails, was that inspired by anything?
I feel like it was, and I'm trying to remember what it was.
I'm thinking Donkey Kong Country.
It wasn't that.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom?
I want to say that, maybe. Which, okay, so apparently, because I have bad taste, the second Indiana Jones was actually my favorite as a kid.
No, don't worry about it. If you'd only get people upset if you said it was like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Or the latest one.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, so I
Me
can't
neither.
say. But yeah, I liked it because to me it looked closest to like the Disneyland ride that they have, the Indiana Jones ride. So I was like, yeah, it's like that ride that I've been on. Anyways,
Other people's criteria for movies: is there a good story? Are the characters good? Is it paced well? How well is the plot explained? Your criteria: does it look like Disneyland?
I remember when I was a kid and I was over at my grandparents' house, I was like, oh yeah, like I want to watch Indiana Jones, and my grampy, or I call him Grampy, he's my grandpa, he was like, oh, well, which one do you want to watch? And I was like, the second one, and he was like, really? He's like, okay.
I see he's a Last Crusade enjoyer, probably.
I'm sure. But anyways, Jace remembered that he had the Dimitri latch. So we're using one of the first items that Katie gave him.
This is really reading as like a Dora the Explorer episode. Oh no, a specific scenario happened. Better use the specific tool I have for this specific scenario.
And it's basically like a grappling hook. He took it out and latched it onto the track. And there was something to sit on it, so it has like a chair, kind of. It's like a wooden plank. Like, I can visualize it.
Okay, I have a weirdly specific complaint, which is that, and I feel like this is something that I would probably do as well if I were writing something around that same age. This seems too nice, too easy, too comfortable. Like, an adventure doesn't really feel very exciting if it resembles home comforts too much, you know what I mean? I remember when I was younger, I had two friends, and we would always play a game. We had a game when we were at recess where we were like superheroes. I can't remember what the other two were, I'm sorry, but I was Frogman.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was basically Spider-Man, except I used my tongue.
I feel like never heard of this. I'm really interested.
Yeah, I don't think I have mentioned this before. It's just a dumb little game. The reason why I haven't mentioned it, I feel like, is because it was boring as fuck. Because, as a kid, I didn't understand why there needed to be stakes. So we came up with these characters that were just like superheroes, but it was like Batman, where they were rich. And we didn't fight bad guys, really. We would just kind of like cruise around on like hoverboards. And nothing bad ever happened. Because, again, as a child, I didn't understand that, like, bad things need to happen in order for it to be interesting. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of people dicking around, not doing anything that would actually capture anybody's attention. And this is a similar sort of critique I'd have for this situation, where it's like, oh, they're not, like, holding on to each other, and he's got like one arm that he's like hanging by with like a grappling hook, which would be pretty physically exerting. It's okay. I shut the thing up, and now we're like comfortably sitting on the seats as it's slowly going up.
I do have like a picture in here of like what it looks like.
Okay, so this is supposed to be romantic.
Yeah, so like they're sitting on like a plank. It looks like a baguette, honestly.
I can see it as like a swing.
Yeah, kind
almost.
of. Yeah, they both sat down, and Jace pulled on the rope to lift themselves up. It was a lot of hard work for Jace. So,
Oh wait, how does this work? I don't know. Is it because there's like systems where there's like sort of like a chain with like a, I don't actually know what it's called. It's like a circular thing, and like you pull on it, and then one end goes down and one end goes up.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine you probably didn't think it through that much, but if he is pulling them up, like there's like slack underneath where he's pulling, that means that he's using his gargantuan, 13-year-old strength to just heave them up this canyon together.
I would just, at that point, just assume it's like the Dimitri is being like steroids, basically. Like, oh yeah, pure fuel.
You think that they would just come up with like a better mechanism, but then again, you were 9 when you wrote this, or
Yeah.
so.
So, you like me? Samantha asked Jace. Well, yeah. Jace answered shyly. Katie giggled. Or Katie, oh my gosh. What's Katie doing here?
There's a love triangle.
No, I just read, like, the wrong name. It's really faint. Like, the writing in here, I can barely read it.
You're right. Katie ends up with Sean.
Oh gosh.
Could you imagine?
Samantha giggled. I just wanted to know. I also have like a different picture here. I wrote up here, not chapter.
Gotta be clear on that one.
But yeah, it's just a picture of them like falling into what they thought was going to be their demise, but
don't worry, they landed in shallow water.
yeah, face first by the looks of it.
As we all know, if the water's shallow, that's better. Because then, instead of water stopping you, it's just straight rock.
Remember, kids, aim for the rocks. Which, by the way, if there are any kids listening, don't do that. And also,
not real advice, not financial advice.
Yeah, and also if a kid is listening to this, I mean, we don't have the greatest language in here, so maybe you should watch something that's not so much cussing. But anyways,
yeah. So yeah, again, similar to my last critique, I know I kind of was a little verbose there, but just real quick, like, no relationship stakes either. They just kind of like each other.
you see, you know what? Maybe this is me just kind of being more original here. It's like, oh, they just confessed early on. You don't see that too often, you know.
You know, there's a lot of positive feelings, I guess, generally speaking, toward originality. It's seen as better than being unoriginal or cliche or tropey or whatever. However, it's an interesting thing because originality really doesn't equal good writing. You want to try to be original, but sometimes you gotta think, why is this a cliche? Because there's usually a good reason.
Well, what you're thinking of are tropes, which, like, tropes are fine. Cliches are the issue.
Well, tropes are, yeah, they can be used in original and creative ways. Cliche is when you're just doing it the same sort of, basically the exact same way, and it's not original. However, I say cliche specifically because it's not good to be cliche, but it is cliche because it works, you know? It may be the same thing over and over again, but sometimes a cliche will work where an original idea won't, because it's just tried and true, you know?
Well, the negative with cliches is that it's taking a trope, which tropes are popular for a reason, and you really can't escape tropes. You're gonna have a trope of some kind in your story. I don't care what you're writing, there's gonna be tropes. But the reason why cliches are frowned upon is because it's taking a trope, but it's doing something that's so incredibly predictable or just overdone to the point where everyone groans and they're tired of it.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I agree. I'm simply saying that I'm trying to contrast here, because cliches are bad, but sometimes trying to be original can actually be worse than being cliche.
No, there's definitely instances where someone goes for something original and it's maybe just not a good choice.
Yeah, I always advocate for more original things. But there's a reason why Disney has spent the last 10 years remaking all of their 2D movies with live action, because guess what? The 2D movies that they made before sold well. They're very unoriginal, and I don't care for them conceptually, the live action ones. But they sell well.
And I think they're doing poorly, the live action remakes, because they're trying to go for something more original when we didn't ask for anything original with a story that we already know and love. Like, I'm all for doing something a little bit different, but they're getting to a point where it's really going against the grain with like the stories we know and love, and people get upset about it. And it's because, you go in thinking you're gonna watch one story and it's like, oh, that's not what I asked for.
I would actually slightly disagree, because I feel like they stick too closely to the originals, because it is the same story and it's just unnecessary to make the same thing again.
Well, I mean, just look what happened to Mulan, so...
Okay, well, I will say the changes they made there were for the worse, for sure.
So what I would say is, like, although I'm not here to say that all this that I'm writing in here from when I was a child was, like, super great or awesome, I will say I find it interesting that I went with a different approach with the romance here. If I were to, like, rewrite it now, I would execute it differently for sure. Like, I wouldn't have them just immediately be like, yeah, you've been here for, like, 20 minutes, by the way, I like you. Like, it's a little too soon, but...
So wait, I mean, were you trying to be different? I thought that this was just kind of, for lack of a better term, your lack of understanding of storytelling.
I don't remember, to be honest. I was just writing a story that I wanted to read because I didn't like children's stories at that time. Like, everything I read, I was like, I don't want any of this. But anyways.
I don't care about the hungry, hungry caterpillar.
It's a little old to be reading that. You're like 9 and still reading the hungry, hungry caterpillar.
It's like a kindergarten reading level.
Anyways, they finally reached the top. Katie was helping them get up. Katie and Sean screamed, "You're alive!" I guess they both said it at the same time. Sean ran and gave Jace a hug. "I thought you were dead."
And then Jace kicks him.
No, it says here, Jace patted his back. Oh, he was comforting him.
That's the first positive thing that he's ever done to Jace in this story, or to Sean in this story.
Jace and Samantha were still wet. It's almost like you were just in the water. Samantha said, "We still have to get to the other side." Jace got out the suction gun and shot it on the other side on a smooth wall with the rope attached on the gun and the suction. Okay, so that's horrible description there, but they are using another tool that Katie gave Jace. So, like, imagine a plunger.
Yeah, no, this isn't a hard concept, I feel like.
Yeah. Like,
you were explaining it like it was a hard concept.
It was just awkwardly described. Okay, I'll let you guys use your imagination there. But, Katie picked up Sean and flew to the other side, which is like... I actually have an explanation for that, I think later in the story.
Wait, yeah. Katie just flew?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, it took me a second. They're doing all this stuff, with the Dimitri latch and the suction gun, and then Katie's like, by the way, let me just woo.
So, like, I want to explain it, because I do know there's an explanation for that particular action, but I'll let the future writing explain that, so stay tuned. Eventually, you will get an answer, guys, I promise.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, I haven't read this. I haven't had it read to me until just now, so I'm also really confused. I'm right there with you guys.
Samantha hopped on Jace's back, and they swung to the other side. and went into the other room. When they got inside, there were more mine carts. You guys should stay away from those.
Yay, again!
But they had diamonds and birthstones in them. Or, gems. Like...
Yeah, birthstone is...
I was like, like the stones that are, like, colorful.
That was the first term your mind thought of, I guess.
I think because, like, when I was little and I would, like, see them, I'd be like, what are those? My mom would be like, oh, those are, like, birthstones, or that one's your birthstone, or, something like that. And so that just stuck in my head. Samantha said, oh, I'm so going to take some. I mean, they're a girl's best friend. Girl, you're, like, feeding into the stereotype.
And another example of, like, there being absolutely no stakes here and just good things happening. Wow, we found a random room with gems in it.
I mean, they are in a mine, but...
I suppose. Does this even come into play later?
I don't remember. Maybe?
Because, okay, so a tiny bit, real quick, of real writing advice. Don't just add things just because you want to that are not going to contribute to the story in any way.
I can actually think of something later in the story where this would have fit, like, seamlessly. It would have been, like, a perfect instance to have it come back, but I think I went with a different approach.
So you squander your opportunity, I suppose.
You stupid child me. Anyways, they started to stuff their pockets. I'm going to hold on to them for you guys, Katie said, holding up her wand, and poof, they were gone. How do we know if you're stealing or not? Sean asked. You're stealing our shit.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention, I was like, these are probably somebody's gems. They were mined. They were put in the carts by somebody. Unless these are, like, abandoned mines.
A bunch of dwarves suddenly come out singing.
Hi, what the fuck is this?
Hi-ho, motherfucker.
Don't get their asses.
Katie answered, oh, fairies don't steal, or not from what I know of. Freaking weird-ass thing to say.
Wait,
a weird logic.
Okay, so they know that it's not theft because fairies are canonically not able to steal?
No, it's like Sean was worried that she was going to steal their gems because she's holding on to it for them. So he's like, how do we know?
He's not worried about the people that they're robbing now. He's just worried that Katie's going to steal from them.
Yeah, and she's like, well, fairies don't steal that I know of.
Katie doesn't know? She's the fairy. I mean, I guess other fairies could steal. She should have just said, oh, I don't steal.
It's like, Sean, you little piece of shit, calling me a thief.
And then she turns him into a toad.
Wow. Wow, how many did you take for us? Jace asked Katie. A few bags full. Fuck.
This is... If they were adults and were found by the police, I think they'd just get, like, 20 years in prison for this amount of theft.
You say if they weren't kids?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They're just like, I don't care, you're a child, you're going behind bars.
At the very least, they'd have to give them back. Ah!
Jace screamed. What? Sean asked. Jace held his foot up, crying. Eek! Down there! Jace stepped on something, Samantha pointed out. Jace had tears rolling down his face. A ball with spikes was under Jace's foot.
Because those are just kind of randomly sitting around in mines.
Yeah, it's like I imagined it kind of like a sea urchin, kind of. Like, imagine stepping on one of those. That would suck us.
I was thinking of like a mace.
No.
Well, you said it was metal, didn't you?
No.
Oh. You didn't just say sea urchin?
No, because it's not a sea urchin. But it's like a sea urchin.
It's an abandoned mine urchin.
Yeah, sure.
Wait, isn't this from Jace's perspective?
No, this is all third person.
Third person's supposed to follow one person's perspective still.
I mean, like, I'm not, like, totally... I guess it's supposed to be Jace's, but, like...
Because it wasn't... because we found out through somebody else that Jace hurt himself. It's just kind of inconsistent.
Yeah, well, I did say that third person was not my strong suit. Katie shouted out, "Get away from it!" Everyone stepped back. The thing squirted out black goop from its antenna, so it has an antenna.
Sea urchins don't have those?
No, like I said, it's like a sea urchin, but it's not.
Okay, wait. Is it still stuck to his foot?
No.
Okay.
This is a spikes ball.
That's just grammatically bad.
This is a spikes ball. The black goop is poison, Katie said. The poison has microscopic glass, so if it hits you, you could die from poison going into the cut.
I love how this reads like an entry in like a bestiary from a video game. Like it'll tell you the different enemy types and what they do.
Yeah.
Katie's just like a walking encyclopedia.
Except she doesn't know if other fairies steal.
Yeah, except she knows everything about everything except her own kind.
Because it says that the spikes shouldn't kill you.
We don't know. They shouldn't.
Oh, I think I see what she's trying to say. So, like, the spikes themselves are not, like, the problem as much, but rather, like, the venom.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's just weirdly said, but...
Well, it's kind of funny how these are inferior to real-world sea urchins, which can poison you with their spikes.
Yeah. Instead, these ones need a stupid antenna to squirt at you.
An antenna is a weird thing to be squirting out of.
No, I know. I didn't know what else to call it, I think. I was just
You didn't want to give it a mouth?
Yeah, this sounds cursed. The very end of it's like a little mouth.
It's more like a tube than an antenna at that point.
The spikes ball chased after Jace. That's it! Jace took out the boom blade. Man, I can't get over the name of that.
I love how the sequences of this chapter so far have been purely reasons. The only events that are happening are events that are necessary to cause the items to be used.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, Jace took out the boom blade and attacked it. It stopped moving. Then there was a bright red light. When it cleared up, there was a boy.
What?
He looked confused.
Wait.
Then he said, "I'm free."
Is this... Hold on. Is this like... I'm thinking of Sonic.
No, I know. So let me first give a disclaimer. It's basically Sonic, but I didn't even play Sonic yet at this point in my life.
Did you... Wait. Did you... What? So you didn't know about this. You came up with this concept and then found out that they did this in Sonic?
Correct.
I guess you were pretty original. Or...
Unintentionally.
Unintentionally original.
But also not, because everyone would just be like, "Oh, you took that from Sonic." You'd be like, "I didn't. I swear I didn't."
Do you have a... Okay, hold on. I don't want spoilers necessarily, but do you, like, have a reason later as to who's transforming little children into
it's, like, literally
monsters?
The next chapter, I think.
Okay. Yeah, you couldn't have waited very long.
Yeah.
Just like you couldn't wait very long to have Samantha and Jace fall in love.
But you will wait to find out why Katie was able to just fly with Sean eventually.
That's an important thing to not know at the current time.
Yeah. Anyways, you guys saved me. Thank you. For thanks, I want to give you this. He held out a Dimitri. It's like an
what is he now? I can't speak. Sorry.
It's like an NPC in a video game when you like do something. They're like, "Hey, thanks for saving me," or "Thanks for helping me. Here's this broth."
I was going to say, what does he need another Dimitri for?
I don't know.
Okay, do they do anything with the extra Dimitris that they get?
I don't remember.
So this really is true to video games where you just get something and you're like, thanks, I'm never using this.
Maybe. Wow, thanks, Jay said. Samantha asked, Wait, you were a monster? But how? Oh, I'll tell you everything, the boy answered.
In the next chapter.
Yep.
I was joking.
So that's the end of this chapter. Something that I learned early on, I was like, oh yeah, the end of every chapter you gotta hook readers, so they gotta keep coming back for more.
You know, that is one thing that you apparently did well even at that time, because that's a good thing to know. That's a good bit of writing advice. You shouldn't end every chapter on a cliffhanger, but you know, chapters are good stopping points. So, if you want them to still read after the end of a chapter, you might want to be like, hey, there's a little something that you want to know in the next chapter.
Yeah, a good piece of writing advice is, you never want a chapter or just a section, well, I'll say just the end of a chapter. You don't want one to end where it feels like everything more or less is fine now. It could be the end of the story if you really wanted it to be, because if someone was bored and set it down for the night or the week or whatever and just never had interest picking it up again, that could be in their head, just that's a good enough ending for me, I don't give a shit about what else happens.
Right. And like I said a second ago, you don't want to do every chapter, because it gets a little predictable when you just do a really big, dramatic cliffhanger at the end of every chapter.
Yeah, it doesn't have to
You start to feel manipulated as the reader.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a really dramatic, cliffhanger, but as long as you have at least a question, a mystery, or a goal, or something in mind that, keeps the readers kind of wondering what might happen there, just enough of a hook so that they want to keep coming back for more.
Yeah, or even, if something big is about to happen that's been talked about, that's going to be happening for, several chapters. If it's more overarching like that, that can still work, just as long as you have something.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
Did you have any, takeaways we haven't already covered for this chapter? Do you feel like we've hit it all?
I find your structure funny, because it is so very like Dora the Explorer. And just, it's just interesting reading a story that's bound and determined to be a story, to exist and have words on the paper without really having a very much momentum, very much forward driving thrust. I know that they're going after the darkness, which is pretty good as an overarching thing, but moment to moment, it's very, this happened, and then this happened, and then this next thing happened. Because there's no build up to any of the next things happening. There's no warning before something just suddenly does happen, and it's pretty quickly dealt with the items that you gave Jace. There's not really a lot of substance in this chapter, aside from, I will give it to you, there was that moment between Samantha and Jace where they told each other that they liked each other. Obviously, I think that's a little early in the story to be happening, but that's more substance than the rest of them had, because the rest of it was essentially an obstacle, solution, item, an obstacle, solution, item.
Monster child?
Oh, okay, that is actually something else. I guess there's more substance than I was giving it credit for, because there's a little tiny bit of world building, which was stolen from Sonic unintentionally, but it's better than nothing. It just feels very like you had a checklist, and you were checking off, okay, he used this item,
Now we'll never see it again.
I mean, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least one item where you just kind of used it the one time.
I wouldn't be surprised either. I do know other ones that were mentioned in this chapter are used again later. I think the Boom Blade is probably the most commonly used one, because it's his main it's the Master Sword.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like Link's sword.
Yeah.
But yeah, very light on the story chapter, with admittedly a couple of interesting things in it, but yeah, overall, obviously, if you're writing, you probably want your moment-to-moment plot events to have more, I suppose, weight behind them than just, and then this happened, and then this next thing happened, because that's probably the most boring way you can write something.
Kind of makes me think, like, when I was a kid on the playground, and I'd have, like, a group of friends, and we'd be like, oh, we're gonna pretend to be, like, puppies or something. It's like, okay, we gotta run over to this side of the playground now. And it's like, okay, now what? It's like, we gotta go over here now.
Since I'm assuming most people who are listening or just, like, want writing advice aren't literal children, I suppose I could be, but if you are a child, then just listen up. In order to be a writer, it is good and important to have forward-thinking skills. Think ahead as to what you want things to be before you just start writing stuff. You can start writing it, but then, like, go back and edit at the very least.
And again, if you are a child, like, we do cuss in here, buddy. Which, like...
What are you doing here?
Which, that makes me a hypocrite. I watched so many movies that had a lot of inappropriate things happen in it and a lot of bad language, so, like, I wouldn't be surprised, but you shouldn't.
We can't stop you. We're not your fucking parents.
Anyways.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Deanna.
And this has been Story Time.
And next, if you tune in for next chapter, chapter 12, it's called What Happened?
I don't know.
We'll find out.
We'll find out, yeah.
Bye.
Bye.